afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're just waiting for a few more people to join and then we'll get started. Hi, everyone. I can see a few more of you filtering in now. My name is Amber and I work on the marketing team here at AgriWebb. I'm joined by Isabel Davis today. We're just going to give it a few more minutes and we'll get started in about 3 minutes. We'll just let a few more people join us. While you're tuning in, we would love to know where you're joining us from. You can just find the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, we've had a few more people join, and I guess a few more will continue to join over the next couple of minutes, but we may as well get started. I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much for joining us today over your Thursday lunch break. We're really glad to have you with us. We're going to have a bit of a faster session today. We're probably going to try and keep it to about 30 to 40 minutes. So we won't keep you for too long, but we hope that you find the session really valuable. We're super excited this afternoon to be diving into this session and exploring how AgriWebb can help you take your farm and farm management to the next level. So to introduce myself, in case you missed it when I first kicked off the webinar, my name is Amber Woods and I work on the marketing team here at AgriWebb. I've been here for almost 5 years now. I'm actually tuning in today from my family farm at Taluna, which is right up on the Queensland-New South Wales border in between Goondiwindi and Moree. It's raining beautifully here at the moment. It has been raining for the last few days, so feeling very grateful for that. We really needed it. I hope that a lot of you are in the same boat and getting this rain, particularly those customers of ours that from the southern regions where we know you've had a couple of very dry months. So hopefully this rain heads your way soon too. We will be talking today about how important a good season and plenty of grass is, so particularly relevant today. So we'll jump into the agenda quickly. We're going to start by unpacking what it means to be rain ready, and then Isabel will walk us through making informed grazing decisions. And then finally, we'll touch on implementing a feed plan and how you can actually do that in AgriWebb now. But before we get started, I did just want to quickly introduce AgriWebb. I know we had a lot of people register for the webinar today who are not customers of ours yet. So for those of you that aren't as familiar with AgriWebb, to give you a really quick overview, we are the leading livestock management software in this country. We are built by producers for producers, and really our mission is to be empowering producers with the tools and insights that you guys need to be making a more productive, to be running a more productive, sustainable, efficient, and profitable operation. So everything from your grazing management, your record keeping, team and task management, all of that can be managed within AgriWebb. And really our main goal at the end of the day is to be making sure that you feel confident in making data-driven decisions. So today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on optimizing autumn growth. So as we head into the cooler months, really ensuring that you're setting your pastures and your livestock up for success. We'll be covering off some key strategies to maximizing your pasture recovery, managing your stocking rates, and of course, making the most of any feed that you do have available at the moment. I'll be handing over to Isabel in a second. She's going to be leading our session today. Isabel is one of our incredible expert implementation specialists. She works really closely with producers every single day. She helps them get set up in AgriWebb and make sure that we're really tailoring AgriWebb to suit the needs of their specific operations to make sure that everyone is getting the most value out of the platform. Isabel is an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to using tech to improve your operation. She really is an AgriWebb expert. So please, any questions that you have about how the product might work that are specific to your operation or more general, she's definitely the girl to help you out there. So pop all your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little button in the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And yeah, just as we go through, sorry, please feel free to pop any and all questions in there, and we'll get to them either throughout the session or at the end. But yes, thank you, Isabel. Over to you.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. So I've been with AgriWebb for almost 2 years now as an implementation specialist, so training farmers how to use AgriWebb. I'm based out of the very end suburbs of Melbourne, as far out of the city as I can get. But I have close ties to family in northeast Victoria, and then I was over in the Western Districts last week with AgriWebb. So I do understand how dry it is down in our southern regions. So hopefully, yes, some of that rain comes down from Queensland all the way down here. But we thought this was a good time to really talk about what will happen when we get an autumn break. Fingers crossed that's not too far away. And something that stuck with me recently is something that I learned. It's a bit of a mindset change that I learned from our friends at RCS, and that was the concept of being rain ready. And I really liked this as a way just to summarize, or a way to think about how you're making decisions with your grazing management. So some ways to get into that mindset. There's a few good questions you can ask yourself. So things like, how many days of grazing do you have ahead of you? Or are you matching your stocking rate to what your land can carry, therefore your carrying capacity? Excuse me. So what we really want to avoid are those extremes of overgrazing. Obviously, we very much want to avoid that, but also on the other end, when we do get an autumn break and we get lots of grass, hopefully, is making sure you're not understocking either. Your pasture can be thought of like money. So if you're leaving grass in the pasture to die off, you're probably just leaving money on the table as well. So that's a good way just to make sure you're keeping that balance at the front of your mind. And another way to think about rain readiness, bringing back to the money piece, is to think of your pastures like a savings account. So you want them to be in good shape, ready to bounce back when the rain comes. So there's a few options of doing that you can explore. So we're going to get into this a little bit later, but things like supplementary feeding, or containment feeding to give your pastures rest, but then also moving into planning out rotations and recording data for your grazing management to understand if you're giving your paddocks the adequate rest, and therefore keeping them in a state where they're going to be rain ready as soon as that comes. So jumping into that, with AgriWebb, it's a really great tool to start making informed grazing decisions. So there's a few key areas we help with that. And so at the start, we allow you to plan with ease. So we sort of take out the guesswork in your rotations of how long animals should be in those paddocks, how long you should rest them for, and where your animals should go next. So it really makes sure your pastures get the rest they need, and make sure that it avoids conflict. So our new grazing planning add-on that we released at the end of last year brings in forage-driven grazing plans. So whether that's feed on offer or stock days or DSE days, you're able to plan out your rotations, select your paddocks, and make sure you're not under or over consuming those paddocks, keeping in line with the rain readiness as well. So what this does is it pulls the data of the pasture availability from your paddock, and we start to recommend grazing days for those paddocks, and the rest days as well. And it will also highlight, for example, if one of your paddocks may be in conflict with another rotation as well. So super visual, and super easy to design. The next most important part is monitor and share. So as we know, it's really important to get your whole team on the same page. And the grazing planning add-on allows everyone to see the plans and upcoming moves, and they're able to take action in various places in the app, to whatever, how they use it daily. So the way we've done this is very visual. We know that AgriWebb is known for the farm map. It's sort of the heart of our software. So what we've done is we've visualized the next moves that are upcoming on the map. So as you can see, the top two, they're due in the future, and there's the initials of the people who need to complete those moves. And then the one down the bottom is overdue. So it means that your data is kept up to date, which is really important down the track as well. And so as we know, life on the farm doesn't really stop, and the best laid plans often get changed. So we allow you to manage on the go. So the grazing planning add-on is super flexible once you've set up your rotations. It allows you to make really quick changes. So that includes if you decide to move animals out of a paddock sooner or leave them in there longer, because we know that your grass can change, how much your animals are consuming can change. So it allows you to reduce rotation lengths or lengthen them, and also take animals in and out of the rotation and swap out paddocks if that's what's required. The main advantage of this is just making sure that your plans are kept up to date, which is a real bonus of managing your grazing digitally. It allows you to, you don't have to go back into the office of a night time and make sure that your written papers, are not only found, but also then updated as well. So super flexible to make it work for you. And then the last piece of this is analysing your historical grazers. So as we know, learning from past performance is a really good way to set ourselves up for success for the future. So we have included in the add-on a grazing chart. So as you can see here, the green bars signify grazers in paddocks, and you're able to see how long they were grazing for, and then how often your paddocks are being rested. We will even show that in a percentage. But we know that grazing isn't just about grass, it's really very weather dependent, as we are all seeing at the moment. So we've pulled in your total rainfall as well as a 12-month rolling rainfall. So this allows you to show how well your paddocks are bouncing back if you're making sure to keep them rain ready. And you can compare that with average seasons or above average seasons as well. So not only does this chart help you plan out future rotations, it can also help you identify under and overperforming paddocks. So potentially where you could graze paddocks for longer, making sure, not leaving any grass on the table, or underperforming paddocks where it might be worth looking into pasture improvement or something like that as well, just to make some really well-informed decisions on your paddocks, not only just about how much grass there is for your animals to eat. The last exciting part about the grazing planning add-on is we know that farmers across Australia do things very differently. So we allow you to plan out your rotations using a forage observation measure of your choice. So whether that's feed on offer or stock days or DSE days. So you're able to change this easily in your settings. And so you can either plan out your rotations using feed on offer or stock days or a paddock rating system for the growing season. But then there's also an option of manually planning out your rotations. This is really good if you're feeding like winter crops or things like that, grazing those, and you know that the animals are just going to be in those paddocks for set number of days. You don't need help deciding how many grazing days to use. You can just allows you to forward plan those moves, schedule them, and assign them to team members as well. So we understand that not everyone plans out their rotations or does grazing planning. So our grazing planner is a additional add-on. So the forage-driven grazing plan is for our performance level of subscription. So it's $300 a year added on to your subscription. But for the people who are using our compliance plan, we do have a movement planner, which is that manual planning that I brought up just before. So it allows you to, I guess, forward schedule all your moves on AgriWebb to make sure that they're kept up to date, and therefore you're able to use the grazing chart and our other grazing reports to make better decisions. Jumping into a feed plan, while we are all, fingers and toes crossed for a great autumn break, definitely down here in the southern regions, we do realise that a lot of people are choosing to supplementary feed or containment feed as well as a strategy to keep their paddocks, rain ready and keep their animals healthy and everything like that. So we wanted to talk through feed plans. This is a new feature in AgriWebb. So it allows you to accurately capture data like what is happening on the farm, as with most things in AgriWebb. So a few reasons why you can implement a feed plan. So it does mean that livestock meet nutritional requirements year round, and that can really help with productivity for weight gains as well as fertility. And as I mentioned before, it can really help you manage seasonal feed shortages and pasture availability. So just, helping out your pastures when you need it at certain times of the year. But the real benefit of creating a plan in AgriWebb and digitally is it gives you a really good understanding of input costs. I've been seeing a lot on my own, social media and things like that from advisors about how important it is right now to understand your cost of production and understand how the decisions you're making, how they're paying off. So the feed plan allows you to take your feed inventory that you store in AgriWebb, and it starts to average out costs across mobs or individuals as well. So you can start to see how much your supplementary or containment feeding is costing you. So you're prepared, next time we head into a dry season, you can start to maybe budget or forecast for that. A couple situations when you should implement a feed plan. This is really helpful when you're looking to improve weight or fertility performance. So we know a lot of people every year before they go to join their animals, they do a flush feeding, things like that, or maybe you're, getting your weaners used to feeding. If you're doing recurring feeds on farm, that's where you can utilize a tool like the feed planner to track it digitally. And then again, as we know right now, a lot of people are using supplementary feed like, silage, hay, grain to make sure animals are kept up to weight and they are able to rest their pastures as well. So yeah, as I said, this sort of like smart grazing, using your rotational planner, ensuring your paddocks are getting adequate rest, as well as, thinking about being rain ready as a good way to frame your mind, because, rain should always show up, fingers crossed, and using the feed planner. We really think these combined allow you to have a more productive season heading into autumn and the cooler months as well.
That's awesome, Isabel. Thank you so much for that overview. We did just have a couple of questions come through, which is awesome as you were going through. So I might fire these off to you if you're ready. The first one, someone was just asking about the SIBO Labs integration.
Yep.
And how that sort of fits in with our grazing functionality.
Yeah, perfect. I'll go back a few slides. Bear with me. So I understand that it is a little bit smaller, but where you can see the today's feed on offer column here. Can you see my cursor, Amber?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So we have a column here called today's feed on offer. So what that is going to do is it's going to pull your latest feed on offer reading from your paddocks. So whether you're entering that manually or you're using a service like SIBO, what SIBO does is they send us the total standing dry matter of your paddocks every 5 days. We then take that and work out your available feed on offer, which is then automatically pulled into your planner. And we then take that, we take any pasture growth rate readings you're doing as well as the target residual you want to leave in your paddocks. And that's how we start to work out the recommended grazing days to make sure that that exit food is above or the same as the residual. So obviously your residual amount is how much grass you want to leave over, because again, we don't want to be overgrazing, and that plays back into that rain readiness. So what it really does, SIBO, is it can really help with taking a bit of the man hours out of having to go out and measure paddocks and understand what sort of pasture availability you have.
Perfect. Another one we had come through was, will I get notified about my grazes or feeds when they're due?
Yes, so this is something we released at the end of last year. So you'll get a notification on the morning of the day that the moves need to be completed. And then you'll get a notification the day after, because they'll then be overdue if you haven't done them. So it's really good at making sure you keep up to date with your AgriWebb moves, and therefore you're able to use your data more efficiently.
Perfect. And then probably last question, unless anyone else has any more they'd like to send through, is just, can you share a little bit more detail on how I can adjust my plans when things do happen to change?
Yeah, so if I go through here, so um, this is really helpful. Like, if obviously you can make a plan, you can choose your paddocks, and hopefully all that will stay the same. But what it means is if you're going out into the paddock and you look at the paddock the animals are currently in, say they have eaten a lot more than what you expected, they've put on more weight, which is always good. What you can do is when you go in and do the movement and the date of that movement record, as you can see here, doesn't match with what the planned date of the next move was, it'll ask you to either reduce the entire rotation length, so take, the number of days that's between those two dates, take it off the whole rotation, and therefore reduce the grazers on every paddock throughout the rotation. Or you can just say, no, I'm going to my next paddock and they're going to stay there for a bit longer. So add the difference onto that. So it's super flexible in how you want to work there. And then if something really changes, like you decide you look ahead and look at the next paddock they're supposed to be going into and actually see that maybe it hasn't bounced back, or the trough's broken, or the fence is broken, you can swap those paddocks out. You can either, insert it, and maybe you want to graze a new paddock for, 12 days or whatever the plan was. But actually you're going to go back to that other paddock once you fix the trough in that week. So that's an option. Or you can fully replace the paddock if it's a bit more, permanent damage, or you want to rest that paddock longer. You can actually replace it entirely. So it's super flexible to do that at any point on the mobile. So while you're out in the paddock, you can change your plans. But if you've gone in, and especially if you're using the stock days per hectare to plan out your grazers, and maybe you're still getting used to that as a forage measurement option, if you've over or underestimated the stock days in a paddock, you can actually go back and edit the whole plan and redo the whole grazers as well. So there's options just to edit the next paddock or edit your whole plan and restart it pretty much as well, to keep it up to date, which is the main goal with doing it digitally. Really struggle with that word.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Isabel. Okay, well, very speedy today. If there's no more questions, we might just jump through to those last slides for me, Izzo. We will wrap up there, guys. This is a much faster webinar. We're trialing a bit of a new format. We'd love to hear your feedback if you prefer these kind of speedy webinars over lunch, or if you would prefer the full hour. Just a few final housekeeping things from me before you do jump off. You will receive a recording of this webinar this afternoon in a few hours if you would like to jump back in and re-listen to any parts. The other call out for those that are not currently using our new grazing functionality, the add-on, we are currently offering a free trial of the add-on. So if you've been thinking about giving it a go, this really is the perfect time. We've just launched the free trial. And then the final call out, just for those that aren't customers, we do have a little discount this month. So if you do sign up before close of business Monday, you will save 30% on your first year. So a really nice little savings there as well. I'll share all of this information in the email that I send out in a few hours with the recording. But thank you, Isabel. Thank you, everyone, for joining us over your lunch break. We hope you get some of this rain if you need it, and hope you have a great rest of your week. See you on the next webinar. Thanks, guys.